Hi, folks, and welcome once again to Talk Formula One. As usual, with me is OBJ. But before we get into it, I must apologize from the bottom of my heart, as well as OBJ's, for the long break in, doing what we do best. My sincere apologies. I know it's no way to go about trying to keep your attention, but please bear with us. These are early days in a project that we hope will, be to the benefit of all Formula One enthusiasts. Without much further ado, we'll jump into yesterday's race. OBJ.
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back. Echoing what Dele said about the long, definitely due break. There's so much going on. Of course, we needed to catch a breath, reset the engine, and be back. So yeah, Belgium, the Ardennes. You know what I like about the Ardennes? The only thing I remember about the Ardennes is World War II. It was a major battle between the German army and the quote-unquote Allied army that when the German army tried to punch through the Ardennes forest. So, well, that's it about the Ardennes.
That's a bit of history.
That's a bit of history, yeah. So
nothing to do with motor racing, but hey, we'll take it.
The good old days in 1945, in the 40 whatever to 1945, Ardennes was a hot zone. It was full of armored tanks. The Germans obviously trying to break the back of the Allies. You need to look that up, Dilly.
Yeah, well, history is best kept in the past, history. But yeah, we've got the Russians pounding Ukraine right now. So, hey, maybe we should start looking into our history books again. But
I think we should. I think, there seems to be Nazis crawling out of everywhere. I thought we dealt with the Nazis in 1945 until they decided to raise their ugly heads. And a good old friend, Mr. Putin, is trying to smash the head back into the bottle to say you should be in the past.
Yeah, well. Enough of politics and into motor racing. So what did you think about? I mean, I know your race ended on lap 2, if I may. Was it lap 1 or lap 2 for you? When, but maybe I'm being presumptuous saying this here.
You'll have to tell me what that means. I'm a stark illiterate, so presumption. I mean, I wouldn't even know what that means. Given
Hamilton was out. Sooner than you could say Hamilton. So racing incident or what was your view on that?
I mean, I actually don't think it's a racing incident. I would blame Alonso for that crash, as far as I was concerned. Because if you look at what the stewards, according to the stewards, the rule book says that, when a car is ahead of the other car by so much in length, the corner belongs to them. So, and I think Mr. Hamilton, or should I say Sir Hamilton, was ahead by a good measure, meaning that the corner belonged to him. And what our good old friend Mr. Alonso should have done in my books, because if the situation was reversed, he should have aborted the defense to avoid an accident. I mean, we all drive cars and we meet crazy people on the road. So on the worst case scenario, let's assume Sir Lewis Hamilton had temporarily vacated his mind, as in he's an absolute idiot. He's gone completely bonkers, and he made a desperate move. I think it was Alonso's gift to back off to avoid an accident, because he was in front of him. He could see him clearly. And even if he just lifted up his gas pedal, he would have slowed down sufficiently for Hamilton to pass. But of course, he'll lose momentum, and he possibly will lose about 2 spaces as a result of that. And a good friend of ours sent a video in this regard, and then another friend of ours sent a video which clearly shows that Alonso opened up his steering to actually turn into Hamilton as Hamilton was trying to do the shunt. So I personally thought Alonso was to blame as far as I was concerned. He saw Hamilton. Hamilton might not have seen him because of the blind spot, but he definitely saw Hamilton because he was in front of him and Hamilton was taking the corner right in front of him. He should have just lifted off. He decided not to lift off. And for an experienced driver, so I'm surprised. He should go back to school, I'll say.
I didn't expect any different from you. But what would you say when Hamilton has ended up saying, well, I put my hands up, maybe I should have given Alonso a bit more space?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I think the Hamilton we know, if we take ourselves back several races, we've had this Hamilton-Alonso spat for quite a long time now. And each time Hamilton tries to overtake Alonso, Alonso does very, very desperate things. And Hamilton just aborts the overtake to avoid an accident. And I think this time around, it's the second half of the season. Hamilton is tired of playing Mr. Nice Guy, which is not getting him anywhere. And he's trying to drive really hard, which is how Verstappen drives. I mean, Verstappen will have done the same thing Hamilton did. Verstappen dives onto the inside of people to take a turn. And it's either you avoid him or you both crash. And that's Verstappen overtaking signature. So Hamilton apologizing, for me, I didn't expect any less from him. He would normally do that anyway because he avoids controversy as best as he can. So, good question. If that was Verstappen, do you think Verstappen would abort an overtake? He wouldn't. He will go for it and he will expect the second driver to be evasive, which is what I expected Alonso to do. Alonso has been giving Hamilton a tough time since the beginning of the season. Some races, he basically held Lewis back for virtually all the race. And Lewis, each time he tries to overtake him, he just has to abandon the overtake because Alonso makes it a dangerous overtake for both of them. So, and I think that, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I think this is the problem with this and that listens to everything you say. So, and I think it's impossible to defend Alonso's attitude to Sir Lewis.
This is me being mischievous. Would this have anything to do with the fact that, Sir Lewis has 7 world championships to a measly 2 from Alonso's point of view?
I think I'm inclined to agree with you. Alonso has how many championships? Nowhere near 7. And in Hamilton's rookie year, it was Mr. Alonso that the same. So this has been going on for such a long time. In fact, I take the view that Alonso left McLaren because of Hamilton. And I think what I find most interesting was that when Hamilton joined, like George Russell has joined now, nobody said, oh, old man Alonso, step aside for the new blood, let the new guys, let's promote them. Nobody said that. So, no, I'm not going where you think I'm going with this, but I just thought I'd mention
that. Well, anyhow, back to some of the other events on track. Brilliant drive from Verstappen. What would you say?
He's beginning to earn my respect. I have to be honest with you. I never really liked the guy because of his aggressive driving, but he has been consistent, and he's beginning to earn my respect. I would say it was a good drive. All his wins has been reasonable. Some of them have not been easy wins, so he's proven himself to be a world-class material, but I still believe he stole 2021's championship. So that's still never going to go away.
Well, would you say stole or was gifted?
Well, gifted and stolen.
I blame the FIA for that. I mean, they should have gotten it right. They should have made any corrections. You know, it happens all over the world of sport. But anyhow, let's go back into the past. Let's move on. What I found astounding was the fact that, the Mercedes cars were almost 2 seconds off Verstappen's time in qualies. I mean, that is astronomical. Hamilton seemed to have sounded very upbeat on Thursday. And, I was like, getting ready to see, a lot happen. But, it's just, to say the least bit, I would like us to have some hope that there's still a bit of racing left in this season. But for me, the title race is all but over.
Almost over.
Because the Red Bull seems to be in a league of its own.
I think you see the problem is, I kind of like blame the FIA. Maybe I shouldn't use that word, blame the FIA. But you see, the FIA, the 2022 regulations, they dropped the minimum height of the rear axle of those cars. And the reason they dropped the minimum height of the rear axle of those cars, to me, was very simple. The Mercedes rear suspension was a state of art. It adjusted the ride height depending on the speed and on the load on the suspension. So and that was what gave them an amazing straight line speed. When it's time to corner, the rear suspension feels the load on the rear wing. It drops the suspension to the height that is needed, or I can't remember which way it works. So initially they said maybe it was illegal, but it wasn't illegal. So Mercedes was allowed to run that rear suspension throughout 2021. So what FIA did was to introduce a minimum height for the rear suspension, and they brought it really low. So it meant one thing: the Mercedes rear suspension had nowhere to go when it dropped, hence the bounce effect. And they've done that deliberately to take away the advantage that, quote unquote, the Mercedes team had. And they allowed it. When he nearly killed Lewis Hamilton, the shock going through his body when the car bottoms out, they allowed them to raise it up again. And then half of 22, they increased the minimum height, which, gave the Mercedes suspension a lot of room to adjust. So I was full of optimism, actually, thinking that this race, we're going to see a comeback of the Mercedes, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Not for quali. Maybe Lewis was sandbagging and he was waiting everything for the main race. That was my expectation, that he might have been sandbagging. But who knows? If he had finished the race, maybe he might have been on podium. Who knows?
Well, we'll have to wait till the next race now. But yeah, like I was saying, excellent drive from Max. I've got to, because there was a bit of debate as to if he was just aiming to be on the podium, but by lap 12, he was back in front, and that's phenomenal, to say the least. But I guess when you're practically 2 seconds a lap quicker than most of the pack, I think it's futile for them to try and resist you overtaking them. But that then raises a question, because Checo is someone I like, personally speaking, but I'm beginning to ask some questions here. And I'm not sure if it's to do with the team or what it is, but, I'm in the same car. Max is, he's extraordinarily quicker than Checo. What's happening here?
No. I would say, don't be overly critical of Checo because I mean, I'm a Formula One fan, but one thing I do not like about Formula One is the team's ability. I mean, we've had this conversation before, is the team's ability to basically say, Dele, we're only going to give you 60% engine power and we'll be giving OBJ 90% engine power. So the team retains discretion in that regard. So whilst they're in the same car, the output of the engine may not be the same. So now, if you look at what's happened now, Max has had an engine change. The Mercedes have not had an engine change. And what that means is that the Red Bull are maxing out on the engine output of their car, which will mean it will wear a lot quicker than the rest of the guys in the pack. And it could be a strategy that, listen, we're going to max out the engines of those cars. We're going to run Maxes at 95%. We're going to run Checo at 80%. Max will have to take an engine penalty, but it's good. It's quick enough. Even if it goes to the back of the pack, he will be able to fight his way straight back to the front. So it doesn't matter. So, F1 championship win is a combination of several factors. And an important part of that is how much engine power is the driver allowed to have. We don't know what Mercedes is doing with Lewis's engine power. No, we don't. Are they running the same engine setup for Lewis and what's his name?
Russell.
George? We don't know. So I've always maintained, and like I said, we've had this conversation before, just like the drivers manage their tires, they really need the drivers to be in control of their engine output as well. So that way, when they need a bit of power, they want to do an aggressive overtake, they can max out, finish their overtake, turn it down as well. Again, it speaks to the racecraft of the driver, that the driver is intelligent enough to know, I've got so many races in the season, I've got 3 engines, my team is giving me a free hand to manage my engine as best as I can. I mean, they can have a management override, if you can call it that. If you think you're being an absolute idiot, then they can just turn it down to say, well, hang on, you cannot max out at 100%.
But it would bring us, I think it will bring us back to the same situation that we are in right now, because the team could just decide for reasons best known to them that, well, we don't think you're managing your engine well enough. So, hey.
Well, then we know. Then if you're a betting man, you know not to bet in Formula One because you know it's been manipulated.
Well, anyhow, I was just going, I'm just mindful of, we don't want to go on forever, but I was just going to, mention the fact that, interestingly enough, Esteban Ocon didn't do it once, but twice during the race. He sort of like repeated a Mika Hakkinen on Schumacher kind of overtake twice in this race. I mean, it made pretty watching, and it gives me hope that there's drivers out there that can do a bit of stuff. If they're given better equipment. I'm not saying anything about anybody's equipment not being up to scratch, but I'd like everybody to kind of like.
You got me confused there when you spoke about the equipment. For a second, I thought you were making reference to something we'd rather not repeat on this channel, given we have children watching.
Well, the Red Bull seems to be a car created for a different race.
Indeed.
I mean, even the prancing horses just seem to be completely, well, I'm not going to use that word. I'll be a bit respectful to the prancing horses, but right now, everybody else on the grid just seems to be not even average. They seem to be way below par. I mean, come on, guys, what's happening? On that note, I guess I don't know if we say look forward to our next race.
We wrap it up and look forward to the next race. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, from me, Daily, it's see you around next time. OBJ?
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you, and hopefully we'll not get another first lap crash out from Sir Lewis.
I didn't expect less than that from you, OBJ.
Fantastic. Enjoy.